Welcome into Bet the Edge on Tuesday, January 31st. Thank you, everyone watching live on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. Unless you are the Iowa State Cyclones, Drew, then you are not welcome here. But today we have a jam-packed episode of nothing but hoops. Drew and I will be joined by Tim Murray of VSiN, my guy who was on Texas Tech last night. We're going to break down the college basketball slate today. We're also talking about the biggest game of the day, Drew. Knicks, Lakers,
Yes.
LeBron James back at MSG, baby. So lots of college basketball, lots of NBA, all that more coming up on Bet the Edge, powered by PointsBet. How are you doing today? Did you sleep well last night? You probably weren't involved in that hectic game.
No, I was not. But I definitely am kind of completely recovered from 2 weeks of no sleep, staying up to watch the Australian Open. Now that is in the books, I'm kind of returning to normal human behavior, which is always a positive. So, it's really weird. These next 2 weeks, I feel like I'm going to be just locked in on NBA. There's nothing else really going on in the betting space. So, we are now basketball handicappers, although I've always been a basketball handicapper, but it's fun to kind of get reconnected with what's going on in college, talking to you who's betting it every night. And I'll do my best to find us some winners on the hard court. So let's go basketball cap.
I love it. I was on the Kings last night, because they had the little revenge angle after being in the same city, losing to Minnesota. Went to OT. So I literally had to sweat out 2 games last night. Was 1-1 in them though, but I only tweeted out one, so it doesn't count, Drew, as you know. But I wanted to give you your flowers, give you your credit, because Friday's episode of Bet the Edge was a banger. Not only did I take the Chiefs, did I take the Eagles, but I took both of your tennis picks along with Kaylin's, and then I took my St. Louis basketball pick on Friday, a beautiful 16-1 on the weekend, all from Bet the Edge on Friday. So nice. I want to say thank you for that, my friend.
It was a great weekend. I don't know that we're going to have many more like that in the year 2023. If I have one more like that in the year 2023, I will be elated.
Yeah, conference matchups coming up for college basketball, and then March Madness. It's going to be upset central soon, and then NBA playoffs. I mean, I think it's not as hard to cap the NBA playoffs, but we're going to see what people think about that. But I want to talk college hoops because there's a ton of them today, and the Big Ten is where I want to start my day off. So let's bring in Tim Murray of VSiN here. Tim, congratulations. Guns up. Texas Tech Red Raiders. I'll tell you, did I have to hedge or what last night? And was I mad about it? Hell yeah. Heck yeah, I was mad about it. How'd your night go besides Texas Tech? And your thoughts on the Red Raiders' largest comeback in program history?
Yeah, down 23 with 12 and a half minutes to go. Had him just where I wanted him. I believe, largest comeback by any team in Division I basketball this year, largest comeback to beat a ranked team over the past decade, second largest comeback in Big 12 history. So, easy winners there for Texas Tech. I said it on my show last night. I have a Texas Tech problem. I can't stop betting them, and I've lost a lot of money on them. So they owed me, much to your dismay, Vaughn. But yeah, we move on, and I don't know if my heart can deal with any more of those losses. I also had Syracuse plus 5.5, who tried to blow that quite hard last night too. So it was your typical guys, easygoing, no sweat college basketball night.
Yeah, you know what? I saw floating around on social media over the weekend, people kind of retweeting the anniversary of Duke coming back against Maryland. Where Jay Williams just went nuclear in the last minute, and they closed like an 11-point gap, and seemingly impossible. Gone in 60 seconds. Yeah, I saw that floating around. I feel like Texas Tech got inspired by that, and they saw it too. They embraced it, and they helped us relive that amazing moment. Speaking of Maryland, they are weirdly 3-point favorites here against hosting Indiana. I have not been impressed with what I've seen from Maryland this season. I am not exactly sure what is going on that they warrant this much favoritism. Obviously, there's decent home court advantage up there in College Town, but it is still not obvious to me that this should be any more than a pick 'em. Do you have a read on this game, and do you think that realistically Indiana's got a little bit of a point to prove? Because they're kind of on the bubble here. I mean, they're a named program. They're going to get the consideration, obviously, but I feel like they need this win to kind of get themselves more sincerely in the conversation for an at-large bid.
Yeah, this is one of those stinky lines that I like to mention. you've got an unranked team catching or laying points against a ranked team, and you saw it last night. Easy cover with Texas Tech, but unranked teams against ranked foes as the favorite this year are 19-10 against the spread. So this is always one of those. What does Vegas know that I don't know? But you dig a little deeper, guys. Maryland has been playing better. Indiana's been playing very well. They've won 5 straight. Just cracked back into the top 25. The great thing about some of these, advanced numbers sites like Bart Torvik is you can take a particular time of the year and see how they've been playing. So if you look at the last, let's say 3 weeks, I believe, Indiana's a top 10 team and Maryland's the top 25 team. Maryland 4-0 ATS in their last 4 games, going back to their win against Michigan at home. And, Drew, as you mentioned, the Xfinity Center, look, it's not Cole Fieldhouse as we bring back all the thinking back to the Gone in 60 Seconds. I remember exactly where I was watching that game on my parents' living room floor. But it's actually been a solid home court this year. They're 9-3 against the spread. Are the Terps at home? Students are back there at Maryland. It's kind of bizarre. Look, growing up in the DC area, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they were at their peak, I mean, the Cole Fieldhouse was a house of horrors. Now, I wouldn't say Xfinity Center is that, but in these bigger games, you could see some big crowds. When the big bald man from ESPN, Scott Van Pelt, makes his way out there, it's a big game. I expect him to be there tonight. But I just like this spot for Maryland. Kevin Willard, I'm a big believer in. I think it's going to take some time, but I was, always a fan of his at Seton Hall, especially later in the years. And, this seems like a little sell high spot on Indiana. 5 straight wins. Mike Woodson's squad is rolling here. But, I'm curious your guys' thoughts on how you normally go about it. Maryland's laying 3. And I know over time, you keep laying the juice on money lines. It's not a long-term, profitable endeavor. However, with the volatility in college basketball, anything under 3, I usually just try to find the cheapest money line. So I found Maryland this morning because overnights, remember, there's no money lines. At least I can't find money lines at my shops, maybe in far off lands. But so I laid -145 here with the Terps just to get it done to beat Indiana in that good old unranked favorite over ranked team situation.
Drew, what I've been telling you the past 2 weeks about the Big Ten basketball, what do you got to do?
I haven't been listening closely enough because
That's what I said. That's what I said. I hope you were listening because he just said it. You take the short home favorites.
Oh, okay.
In Big Ten play, they continually been paying off. See, on a couple books, I'm in Connecticut, so like the DK and FanDuel's will offer early lines. Maryland was -1, and I'd pick them on the money line yesterday when this opened around 5 o'clock. So I was like, give me that because they're the home team. But did I feel confident doing it? Not at all because like you said, Tim, Indiana's playing their best basketball this season right now. But Maryland at home has put up some absurd statistics in conference play. I'm going to give you guys a couple real quick on why I like them, Tim. 123.1 adjusted offensive efficiency, number 2 in the conference, only behind Purdue. 82% from the free throw line, 37% offensive rebounding percentage. You're making your free throws. You're playing efficient offense, offensive rebounding, and we know they are the 4th slowest tempo defense in the country. That's tough for any team to walk into your building and play against. So I like the Terps tonight. We're in agreement. I got them on the money line too. This next game, I'm hoping we disagree. This is Big 12 basketball, and you're one up on me right now because early in the week I was like, this is a great spot for TCU to extract revenge on West Virginia after WVU beat them 74-65 at home. But no Mike Miles. Eddie Lampkin's been in and out. He's day-to-day. We don't know if he's playing yet. Money's coming in on West Virginia. I think this could be a sweep for the Mountaineers. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint. I'm going to stay off this. I'm not going to. West Virginia, kind of like Texas Tech, gives me heartburn. West Virginia over the weekend, if you laid it late at 4, that was a loser. I laid it 3. And they got me a push when they had almost a 20-point lead, but I guess it comes all back around. This West Virginia team, the advanced numbers guys, they love West Virginia. They can't get enough of the Mountaineers. Right now you look at KenPom, they're top 20 in the country, despite their 13-8 record. But that just goes to show you what this Big 12 is and why it's just an absolute gauntlet. I was on West Virginia a couple weeks ago when they played TCU. That was the old, hey, we're winless in the Big 12, but yet we're laying points against TCU situation. And Huggy Bear came out with a victory there. It does seem like West Virginia, guys, is turning it around a little bit. And I'm a believer in this TCU team. I know this past weekend, as you mentioned, Vaughn, they lose Mike Miles. Eddie Lampkin's banged up. I know we'll do a futures discussion a little bit later on. I think, playing the long game, I'm going to root for you tonight, Vaughn, because A, I'm a good guy. B, I think we can maybe get a little bit better number on TCU in the futures market if they take a couple L's here, because I think this team has the capabilities, when fully healthy, of making a run, deep into the NCAA tournament. They're incredibly well coached with Jamie Dixon. They've got dudes all over there. And if Mike Miles is out for a little bit and Eddie Lampkin, as you mentioned, is in and out of the lineup, maybe we can get TCU at a better price in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to sit back on. I'm going to pull for you tonight that the West Virginia Mountaineers can pull this sucker off. And then maybe we can get a better price on the Horned Frogs to make a run into the NCAA tournament.
And I'll say this because we don't really know how West Virginia is going to, or how TCU is going to come out in this game without Mike Miles. He's been on fire the past few games. So I might try and get a better number on West Virginia, but the line opened at 4, down to 2.5. And as you stated yesterday, Virginia and Syracuse line was right on the money, opened at 4.5. They won by 5. Syracuse 5.5 won. Texas Tech closed at 2.5. They won by 3 in overtime. Texas and Baylor, almost same situation. I can go down the line, even give you Chicago State and the Citadel yesterday. All right.
I think Drew wants Tums right now. Listen,
I make credit to you guys betting this stuff in almost February. These markets are not soft. There's no doubt.
Man. It's wild.
Yeah,
it is a wild market, and you just look at so many of these games land on the number, and that's why especially with the volatility of free throws. Once again, I'll go back to West Virginia over the weekend, missed a couple of late free throws, ultimately landed on a push. If you laid the early number, once again, I totally recognize, laying $1.45 or $1.40 over the long term probably isn't for viable success. But in these games, in these conference games, when it comes down and it's such a small margin, if I could get that extra, 2 couple points, I'm just going to roll with the short money line. I'm never going to advise laying 270 on the money line, but if you could get minus 140, 145, somewhere in that ballpark, that's where I like to roll here, especially in these, these conference games.
Gotcha. Well, your guy Bart Torvik does a nice job of kind of projecting the field. He's got TCU right now coming in as a 3 seed. And as I look at their overall profile, boy, do they look like a team you want to be involved in to get to the Final Four. They're going to be able to avoid the upsets. They're incredibly good at creating turnovers. Really, really solid defensive team. Not conceding too many free throws, so it's not even like they can get a bad whistle in a given game. So just a really good sort of DNA for a team that's going to be there come second, maybe even third week of the tournament. So hopefully they get a good draw. We'll have to put that in my back pocket and see what ends up breaking there. But as we move kind of down the slate in the Big 12, you have an interesting interstate rivalry between Kansas State and Kansas. And Kansas, of course, are reigning champions. Magical run last year. I think a lot of the folks that watch Bet the Edge were kind of on board with the Kansas Jayhawks and enjoyed that tremendously. But this is a really, really cool contest. Kansas currently projected as a 2 seed. Kansas State is a 4 seed. Now, of course, I think if Kansas wins the Big 12 tournament, they'll probably get a 1. But it is going to be all hands on deck. And we are seeing Kansas right now laying 7.5, total sitting at 145.5. What is your temperature on the current state of the Kansas program? Do you think that this is sort of the time of the season where they go from good to great to set up a tournament run? Or are they just sort of running out the season trying to stay healthy and Kansas State could nip them?
There's no doubt. I mean, they already did, beat them a couple weeks ago. What a great performance, at Kansas State. and we can get to, what Jerome Tang has done in his first year at K-State. I mean, this is a team that was picked by, people in the conference to finish dead last. And here they are, they're a top 25 team, going to make the tournament, beat Kansas just a couple weeks ago in an absolute thriller in overtime. And one of the things that impressed me, I'm a big proponent, and I do this on my show, especially in college football season, when we have a little more time to breathe, is the letdown spots. You're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds after you have a emotional victory. And what impressed me about Kansas State a couple weeks ago, guys, was they went out and they took care of business against Texas Tech after beating Kansas in overtime and covered that game. I would know because I was on Texas Tech, because I said Tech problem. But this does feel like a spot where people are anticipating, guys, the revenge factor. It's at Fog Allen. I'm not racing to lay 8 with Kansas. You mentioned, what's your temperature on Kansas? Drew, look, they have one of the best, if not the best pound for pound player in the country, and Jalen Wilson. He's a stud. And Grady Dick is a tremendous player, can light it up from outside, there for the Jayhawks. So they got your typical pieces there for a team that could make a run. But it does seem like something seems to be just amiss. I mean, I can't recall, at least, Bill Self had never happened, a team like Kansas getting run off the floor at home like they did a couple weeks ago against TCU. I mean, they lost by 23 points to TCU at home, which was just wild. So, look, I do think this is a situation where the market's telling you Kansas is going to get a little revenge. So I'm not going to race to take the points of Kansas State. I don't, look at last night, the money, at least, you looked at the public was kind of looking at Baylor as maybe a trendy-ish dog. And Texas ultimately wins that game. Not going away. It was a great game, but Texas wins that game and covers the 4 there. So I think I could understand the revenge angle here for K-State, or for Kansas, I beg your pardon. But I love Kansas State, man. It's really impressive. And Vaughn, I'm sure you've talked about him, but this is a team that, and people, this is a team that is not one that is, smoke and mirrors. I mean, Keontae Johnson, in addition to being one of the best stories in all of sports, coming back from, a cardiac arrest moment and, playing at the level he's playing at with Kansas State. I mean, this is a guy that once upon a time was preseason SEC player of the year. So this isn't some, random jabroni. And then, Marquise Noel was balling at Little Rock. So, I mean, they got some guys on this squad that have played some big time, games. Desi Sills started games, for Arkansas. So, this is a team that has some players. They're not just some, random team that's getting hot, in the middle of the year.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Tim. I love how you brought up a lot of different angles in this game, especially revenge angle, but how K-State has really been just slept on all season long. I mean, they came from nothing and now they are something, way more than something. We should be saying top 10 team in the country. But last time they played Kansas, I mean, they had 44 points in the first half on Kansas, and Kansas had 39. And I thought, right out the gate they're running. In this situation where I backed Kansas against Kentucky outright and plus 2.5. And, you don't feel confident backing the same team multiple games in a row in conference play. You're probably asking to get your heart broken. But this is an angle where I'd probably feel more comfortable playing the first half for Kansas. I sprinkled the first half minus 3.5. It's already out to 4.5. On FanDuel, I saw the 8.5 is the game spread now. So more and more money is coming on Kansas.
And real quickly to jump in there, and I think that's an interesting angle. I've been doing this a lot this year where I take my unit, whatever your unit is, and I split it in half, and I play first half and full game a lot.
I've been thinking about doing that.
Especially
profitable.
Yeah, I would say so. Last night it wasn't because I did it with Texas Tech, so but I do think especially in situations like this, and to each their own. Nothing's a perfect science, but I think for Kansas, this maybe is that situational spot where you look to get a motivated Kansas team coming off of a rivalry win, or coming off of 2 weeks removed, I should say, from losing that rivalry game. Split it in half and see how it goes, because as we all know, when you're laying 8 in college basketball, anything could happen in those games. It's a 3, garbage time, whatever it may be. So you always get a little bit squirmish there late in those games. You're not going to necessarily get that in the first half. So, it is to your point, though, I should kind of really track exactly how it's working out for me. But it's been a method that I've been looking at much more this year than I have in years past, where, take your unit, split it in half and see how it plays out. More often than not, I feel like you're probably, if you're on the right side, you'll win both. But, I think tonight would be an interesting angle to look first half as opposed to full game, because then you're not worrying about a last second 3 from the corner or, late fouls that, might hurt you. So that might be an angle to look at here, especially with, revenge on the mind for Kansas, since they just lost to their in-state rival just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and last thing I'll add to that before we move on to is that I think when you approach it first half and full game like that, games like last night, Iowa State, Texas Tech, the live spread was 10.5 for Texas Tech. So you also have the ability to go back in on a spread that's much bigger too. So I've been looking at a lot of that. We've seen a lot of comebacks in college basketball. It is probably the most volatile sport to bet on, especially in the final 3 minutes of a game. Anything can happen. But for this game I want to ask you about, I feel like we know what's going to happen. Hopefully, I know what's going to happen because I took San Diego State. It was minus 120 yesterday, out to minus 140, 150 on the money line. They're out to minus 3.5 on the spread now. They've beat Nevada 9 straight games. They're going for 10 straight victories over Nevada. This is probably the toughest home game Nevada's going to have this season. Where are you laying points with?
I'm on a different Mountain West game tonight, but this is a Nevada team that, man, they've kind of been on this roller coaster as of late, and they've gone through a gauntlet here. They played Boise State, a team that is been playing phenomenal basketball as of late here, and they got beat up pretty good on the road. They come back home. They have a thriller against New Mexico where they get the fortunate whistle. I think it was the right call because I was on Nevada that night, of getting a flagrant foul thrown to the face in the second overtime to win that game. They came from 5 down in the first overtime, and then they lose to a rival in UNLV. So that this past weekend, I should say. So it is always you wonder a little bit, is there a sense of maybe running out of gas? They're at home. Ken Prom projects them, to win this game. But Vaughn, you seem to be on the right side here with the market, as you alluded to. It's moved in their direction. So, San Diego State certainly got the early money here to go from around pick to open, from the open to lay in 3.
Yeah, looks like in general, this is a meaningful game for Nevada. They are right now in the first 4 out by a lot of projections. So at-large bid is kind of fading for them. And the fact that the market wants no piece of them in this spot is a bad sign. That generally does not bode well for you when you have this much of a clear at-home must-win and you are getting aggressively bet against by the market makers. So I like this look. Let's go Aztecs.
Yeah, let's go Aztecs. Nevada's lost 3 of their last 5. SDSU 4 straight, 10 of their last 11. And Nevada has the second or third worst defensive efficiency at home in conference play. So maybe that's why they don't like them, Drew. What game are you on in the Mountain West Conference, Tim?
So I mentioned Nevada and UNLV, the battle in my backyard. Big win for UNLV this past week. So they won 2 straight at home, beat Wyoming, and then beat Nevada. I'm going to fade them here against Colorado State. For the revenge angle, they lost in heartbreaking fashion against Colorado State. Colorado State hit a half-court shot to force overtime just a couple weeks ago here in Vegas. But I think this is a tricky spot. You just beat Nevada. Emotions were high there. It's the best win probably of at least of the conference season. And now you go on the road to Colorado State. Colorado State overall has been a rather disappointment. And I think people, guys, look at what Colorado State has done. They just had back-to-back road games where they lost to Wyoming, who's not very good, and then they got absolutely blitzed by Boise State over the weekend. So this is kind of a desperate spot for the Rams. You look at what they've done at home. They've had some heartbreaking losses. I just situationally really like this spot for Colorado State, and I think letdown could be a big one here for UNLV. Quick turnaround after beating their rival on Saturday night. So I'm rolling with Colorado State. I think money line, I grabbed it like minus 150. Market's at 3.5. Market has backed Colorado State here. Open 1.5, quickly went up to 3.5. So I'm going to roll with the Rams against the Rebels tonight.
That's the side I always like being on in conference play. So I'm with you. I'm going to ride that one with you. I'll have to take a deeper look into that for sure. Let's do this little promo, then we'll get you on your favorite looks. So make sure you guys download the Roto World app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, much more delivered right to your phone. Available in your app store today. So, Tim, it's college basketball. We should probably talk some blue bloods before you get out of here. Best looks, whichever one you'd rather talk about. Wake Forest at Duke. Blue Devils laying 8.5. Kentucky at Ole Miss. Kentucky laying 7.5. And Drew brought it to our attention that Ole Miss may be getting a key player back tonight, and the market has not reacted to it.
Yeah, and I'll leave this to. I'll set up Drew like I'm a point guard here, because it looks like Drew, Matt Morrell is going to play. He's been out here for a little bit, so Rebels at home. Ole Miss catching some points against a Kentucky team. Look, I can't trust Kentucky. They could win by 100 tonight. Congrats if you lay the points. I can't trust this Kentucky team laying a decent sized number on the road this year.
Yeah. And yeah, to your point, if you haven't been following the Rebels college basketball closely, Morrell misses the last two, and they were not competitive. Missouri just took them to task. They go in as 10-point dogs to Oklahoma State. They get run out of the gym. And yeah, it looks like at least people were expecting game time decision from him. People are betting Kentucky in this spot, but Morrell, I think, will be available, and I think makes this a competitive game. So Mississippi or pass for me in the SEC's tilt here. Do you see, key question of the night, of the day, do you see value in Kentucky going forward as far as a tourney, kind of troublemaker? Similarly, Duke, these are blue blood teams in a relatively weak field this year. There's no one that really stands out like we have had, over the last handful of years. And I would guess if these guys get into the dance, they're going to be bet pretty aggressively. They're going to obviously have, just sort of the name brand recognition with a lot of the people who are picking off futures at that point. Is there any reason to be hopeful for either a Kentucky Wildcat fan or a Duke Blue Devil fan being a factor in March Madness this year?
Look, at the end of the day, you have some of the best players. The way you've been recruiting on the elite level, and Duke has been getting better here. Filipowski, this dude's legit. A 7-footer, can light it up from anywhere. I just over the years, I have a hard time, especially this year, guys. With teams with 5th, 6th-year seniors, when you're going up against the Kentuckys of the world. Now, Kentucky has, Shibwe, who's been around for a while and reigning, player of the year. So there's a mix there. But I always look at these two teams, and you can look at it two different ways. You could say both of them are down. Now's the time to buy. But as you guys know, because these teams are such public teams, kind of like the Cowboys, you're just never really going to get a great price on them. So I think there's different avenues to look in the market. We talked about TCU earlier in the program. Teams that, might not be those household names. Those might be the teams where you can get a little bit of extra value. I always feel like Duke and Kentucky, very rarely are you getting, a good number. I was looking at a couple different books. I mean, they're priced in the 20 to 30 to 1 range. They're protecting themselves. The books are, because those teams are so chock full of talent, but I can't do it with those teams. So right now, personally, I don't see much value in Duke or Kentucky in the futures market.
So they're the dead money in the pool this year. That's good to know. That's good to know.
You can have me back on when Duke and Kentucky are playing in the national championship game.
I kind of did I tried to figure out what was going on with these prices, because I certainly don't understand the Kentucky price. They're like 50-50 to even get into the dance. I mean, yes, they're brand name, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt, but they need to win down the stretch here. And, going into this game tonight, if they don't get a win against Mississippi, obviously they're meaningful favorites. But, if Morrell comes back, if that team is live and Kentucky takes an L here, all of a sudden they might be on the outside looking in. Some of the projections only giving Kentucky like around a 50-50 chance to make the dance right now. They are currently would be like the 7th best team in the FCC. So they got a long way to go. And 850 to go to the Final Four seems like a very long shot if you're not even in the dance.
I'd much rather have Marquette than Kentucky at that price. or maybe even Creighton or another team like that. Yeah, I'm with you 100% here. But Tim, great stuff all over. We definitely appreciate you. Let everyone know where they can find you on social media and your content.
Yeah, follow me there at Tim Murray, and then myself and former NFL quarterback who was getting a lot of run this weekend. I had to bring him down to earth. Sean King, youngest starting quarterback in a conference championship game. I had to see his young face up on the national broadcast over the weekend. But myself and Sean King, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern, each and every weekday on VSiN.
That's pretty cool. Appreciate it, Tim. Thank you for coming on.
See you guys.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Sean King. I did see that graphic, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. That's the exact same Sean King. Would you look at that, Drew? That's pretty cool. Well, just a reminder, if you guys don't have the NBC Sports Digital app, go download it now. Contests are free, easy. Play your shot to win thousands by predicting what's going to happen on the PGA Tour as well as Premier League and college basketball. And we definitely got you guys covered with college basketball today. But now we go to Drew's wheelhouse. He's been playing third wheel this whole episode, but now he's ready to take control, baby. He's front wheeling. So NBA, take us where you want to go, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, we got to start with the game of the night, which is, of course, at Madison Square Garden, where LeBron James and Anthony Davis return for the Lakers. And the Lakers, small dog here on the road at +3. A little bit of two-way action in the market. No sincere opinions being made until the last 20 minutes, where the Lakers money showed up. You now have a couple of books on their way to 2.5, 2. This was, of course, 3 less than an hour ago. So I guess maybe the market just digesting the fact that LeBron will play and that Anthony Davis will play. But my problem here, taking the points with the Lakers, is that the rest of the squad is absolutely gassed. Not only have they had the crunch of a very difficult road trip on their backs, but without LeBron playing last night, without Anthony Davis playing last night, these guys logged meaningful minutes. And so I do not know what kind of effort you're going to get out of the other 3 guys on the floor with your starting 2, your big 2. And I don't know what you're going to get with your bench mob. I mean, this could be run off the floor whenever the second unit is out there. And I think realistically, the Knicks are a lot better team than the market is giving them credit for right now. They are ranked around 15th in the NBA by kind of market power ratings, with the Lakers in the 23 range. I have the Knicks kind of a decent 4 points better than the Lakers in Madison Square Garden. So I'm surprised that this number is moving the other way, even with the rested LeBron and Anthony Davis making their return. Now, for what it's worth, relatively high total. LeBron chasing the all-time scoring record, of course. And so, that may be a factor in why people are kind of willing to get involved with the Lakers here, expecting sort of an absolute, kind of heroic effort here as he is, kind of trying to write history. However, again, I think this number should be 4.5. And so I laid it with the Knicks, expecting, ultimately their second unit to be the difference. Do you have a read on this one? Do you expect the Lakers to, shock the world? I mean, this is a team that's still being treated like they're an average NBA team, even though they currently stand 13th in the Western Conference and are well on the outside of the play-in picture. They're on the outside looking in. Yeah,
the Lakers are not good. Newsflash all across your screen. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the line. I thought the Knicks would be laying more of a 4.5 or a 5 here. I think it's respect for LeBron and AD, but at the same time, there's no way that Anthony Davis is going to go out here and give 30 points, 12. He's not going to go out here and have a crazy game. I'm sure there's going to be a rust factor here. I'm sure the Lakers will be pretty competitive in the first half, or somewhat, but this is LeBron James. It's on his shoulders. When I circled this game, I said LeBron, 42.5 points, rebounds, assists. That's the number I want. The prop was released about 10 minutes ago, and it's 43.5 is the number. Wow. So it's pretty much exactly where I thought it would be. So if I had a free play in that game, it's either Knicks money line or LeBron over points, rebounds, assists. But other than that, it should be a great game, in my opinion. If I'm watching an NBA game tonight, Drew, I'm watching the Clippers put the smack down on my Bulls. If I'm betting one NBA game tonight, I'm taking the Clippers money line. I don't have faith in my team, man. I have faith in DeMar to get some buckets tonight, Kawhi Leonard to get some buckets tonight, 20 plus, 25 plus in your same game parlays. But the Bulls, would you take them?
I would take the Bulls if I had to take a side in that one. Now it's a short line at Clippers -3, but the Clippers are coming in with a little bit of a rest disadvantage. Chicago has been, they've gotten plenty of time to get right here. They're playing a little bit better of late, although they, really only give you an honest effort against the good teams, and then they just completely lay an egg against the bad teams. So, maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into that they're going to compete against a good team tonight. But for what it's worth, huge rest disadvantage in favor of Chicago. I didn't play that one because 3 is a little too short by my numbers, but I think that's Chicago or pass. The other 2 that I like, besides laying the 2.5 currently with the New York Knickerbockers, I like the Miami Heat. That's getting bet. That one's getting bet. That is now down to 4. I grabbed Heat plus 5.5.
It was pretty high.
Yeah, that was high. I guess we may be getting confirmation that Jimmy Butler is playing based on the current market moving here. The market maker is down to 4 for the Miami Heat versus the Cavs. I still like 4. I think this is a competitive game. I would have made it 2.5. And then the other game that I have circled and have very much interest in is the New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Denver Nuggets. New Orleans with a huge rest disadvantage. New Orleans going to altitude. Not sure that we're going to get Jamal Murray for the Denver Nuggets here, which puts them at a little bit of a tight spot just because they don't have a ton of great guard play. But New Orleans is trying to reintegrate Brandon Ingram into the lineup. CJ McCollum coming off of an injury that has affected his performance. So I think ultimately Denver ought to be about 8-point favorites there. So I laid the 6.5. So for me tonight, cheering for Denver, laid the points. Cheering for Miami, took the points, and laid the small spread with the New York Knicks.
I like that, man. I was looking at some Brandon Ingram props for his return to the Pelicans, but if you're liking the Nuggets, I might just call that quits because I'm honestly, with all the great college basketball we covered today, watching Pelicans Nuggets, probably not on my agenda tonight, Drew. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But I do like the look on the Heat and Cavs game a lot. I was in agreement with you there, and I think the market moving there is a great direction for Jimmy Butler, who usually plays up to the Cavs. And with those trees down lows for Cleveland, I think Jimmy Butler is going to be pretty active tonight on the boards. He'll have to be. So I like it a lot. If you had to give out your best play, Drew, which one would it be?
I'm going to go with the Heat plus the points. Mm-hmm. Some of that is because of the market confirmation. But even still, like that's a game that should be realistically the Heat have a very realistic chance to win, I think. So Heat for me.
And they got to turn their season around in 2023 because we know the end of 2022 was not good. So I like that look a lot. I'm going to go with Maryland. My guy Tim was on the same side. So we're rocking with the Terps again. Another week where we're rocking with the Terps on this show, baby. Let's get it. Drew, great episode, full of great basketball information as always. Don't forget to check out NBC Sports Edge, everyone, for more info to help you guys with your wagers. Thank you for watching live on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening in the podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. Thank you so much, and best of luck with your bets tonight.